Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Before we start today's workshop, which is on images, and later in the afternoon on the uses of AI, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Handing you over to Emmy. Emmy, before we start, do you want to tell everyone a little about yourself?
Sure, yes. I'm Amy, so I'm a graphic designer. I work with Saleha, and I've been a graphic designer for about 15 years. I've worked in sort of a variety of settings in agencies, publishing, so doing magazine work, not-for-profit, and corporate. So I've had a chance to sort of work over pretty much any medium that gets a logo stamped on it or any kind of layout there. So yeah, I'm hopeful that I can sort of assist in any way and sort of pass on any helpful information to this group. I understand. So this group here, you're all producing different kinds of marketing materials, and it sounds like you're all very dab hand at creating your copy and your marketing and design. So this is basically me talking about different design principles that I think are really handy when doing design work. If we can go to the next page, Saleha. So graphic design is the visual part of communication. It's the art and practice of planning and creating visual content to communicate your ideas and messages. And it's everywhere we look. Right now, if you're sitting at your desk, you might have signage around you. There'll be a logo on your computer that you're looking at. There'll be a web interface that you're looking at. That's all part of design, and we see it everywhere. Good design can be really eye-catching and inspiring. It can be beautiful and enchanting. And it can also be seamless and invisible. And it can quietly guide you without drawing attention to itself. Next slide, Saleha. So does design matter at the end of the day? So next slide. So sometimes design can be executed poorly, and when that can happen, it can be confusing, it can be hard to read, it can create harm to a credibility of your brand, it can be distracting, ignored, and ultimately a waste of time and money. So it's important to consider when we are designing something, because it can have a detrimental impact to your messaging. So as you can see here, some of these, the top row of I guess design pieces, you can see are very hard to understand. They're hard to read, they're cluttered, there's a lot going on there, and ultimately it's distracting from what the messaging is about. So that's something we want to try and avoid. We also look down on the bottom row and we look at things like color and fonts and how they can sometimes be giving the wrong message or a complete opposite message. And when you're doing design, as a lot of you would know, you don't want to create work. You don't want your design to be a burden and distracting from what you're actually wanting to say. So this is sort of what can happen if we don't really think about the principles of design. Next slide. So there's a few different principles, but these are the main ones, and I think these are actually really helpful. And that is considering balance, contrast, hierarchy, space, color, and typography. These are really big parts of design. You'll be using them all the time, and probably subconsciously as well. But it's worth having a think about every time you do use these, because they can have positive and negative impacts to what you're creating. So the next slide. So balance is really important. It involves a relationship between the positive elements, so the stuff that you're putting on the page, and the space around it. And what we're always aiming for is a harmony, a visual harmony of what you're seeing. And there can be two sort of different types of balance. You can have a symmetrical or an asymmetrical type of balance. Next slide. So here are two examples. So we have an asymmetrical design and a symmetrical design. Both are completely fine, but you'll notice that the asymmetrical design will have a sort of a modern and edgy look by balancing all your elements or your stuff to one side and then using your white space on the other side to sort of create that harmony. And then a symmetrical design is quite formal looking. So everything will be sort of centered, almost like a mirror image there. So that's sort of two ways that you can use balance when you're doing a layout. Next slide. So contrast. So contrast is the differences between color, size, shape, and texture. It creates a visual interest, and this is really important because it can help you draw attention to what you want the reader to pay attention to when you're creating something. So next slide. So we can do it in different ways. We've got color, size, shape. Contrast is quite powerful because what you're doing is you're highlighting difference. So whether it's through these ways of color, size, shape, and type, these differences create a visual interest and it can draw attention to different elements, and this can make your design more engaging and effective. To think about contrast is a way to guide your viewer through the page. When it's used effectively, it not only makes the design more dynamic, but it also makes the important elements stand out. So you can, whether it's your logo or a key message or a photograph, you can sort of control where a reader's looking by using contrast. Next. Hierarchy is linked to that. So it's creating, when you're creating a layout, you can use an order of elements to show importance. Again, this guides the viewer's eyes and it ensures that the most important information is seen first, and things that are not as important can be seen secondary. So an example here. So there's different ways you can do that. So here's some layouts that you can look at here. So for example, you might want your logo to be the most important thing that stands out. So you can use scale for that. You can make it big. You can also use position by having the logo in the bottom right-hand side of the page. That is often the last. Our eyes will gaze at a page, will start at the top left, and our eye will leave at the bottom right, generally. And so that can be an impactful place to put a logo because it's the last thing that you see on the page. You can also use, again, make it stand out by having it bright or bold, and changing direction can also make something pop out as well. Think of it as like a visual roadmap. You decide the path on which the audience eyes will travel, and the goal is to make the viewer or the reader make the journey through this information as easy and as intuitive as possible. Next. Space. So space in design can be referred to as, we can refer to as negative space or white space. And it's important to create a visually appealing design. So what you don't want on a design is lots of clutter, lots and lots of elements. Because then what happens is, as a reader, as someone trying to absorb that information, you think, where do I look? What am I looking at here? What am I supposed to digest? And sometimes, especially when everyone's busy, people turn off from it. They just disengage from it because they're like, I don't know where to start. This is too much. It could be too much words. It could be too many images. So having that breathing room, it helps with legibility. It helps with creating that hierarchy and balance and the harmony of your design. And it also will mean that you're likely to engage people with it because it's not sort of an overwhelming thing that they're looking at. Next page. So here are some examples of really, really heavy layout pieces and having some space around it. So you can have space around the edges of like the border of your design, in between the lines of your words. If you've got lots of copy there, we call that leading. So having increased leading in between the lines of your copy will help with legibility. And you can also have white space around elements like images and photographs. So this, again, it helps put the focus on what you want the reader to look at. So, for example, with this phone picture, we want the reader to look at the phone. We want the nice white space around it. So there's nothing distracting us. There's not multiple things on the page sort of competing for your attention. So that is something that is, I think, an important tool to use and to think about when you're designing something. Next. So the use of colour. So many of you will be working with, I guess, an established brand that might have a brand guideline. So often you'll be using colours associated with that logo or the brand guidelines, which is, I guess, which is an important thing to have it connecting to your brand. It reinforces your brand. But you can also use colour to evoke emotions, harmony, and to guide your attention. It can influence the mood and the legibility. Next. So one thing that's a really basic tool, but I use it in a day-to-day, in design world where I'm trying to work out what kind of palette I want to use, and that is the color wheel. So, for example, contrast, having colors that sit on either side of the color wheel will generally work together quite well and they will help each other stand out from a page. If I want to use a really striking or a dynamic sort of palette, a contrasting color will pop off the page. Whereas if you want to have sort of a more subtle tone, an analogous palette, so these are colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel, will often create a nice harmony as well. And we can see examples there. So where we have that of the orange painting, like the oil painting there with the cut up reds and oranges there. So that's an analogous palette. And these colors, they are all, because they sit next to each other on the wheel, they have a nice harmony to them. It's actually a very soft look. Whereas next to it, where we have the blue with the orange sort of jumping off at the screen, these are sitting opposite each other on the color wheel. And because these contrast each other, they actually stand out quite well. So if you're ever scratching your head and you're thinking, I don't know what colors to use, I'm not trying to get a good color balance, using this color wheel will help you use color in a clever way, and you can sort of achieve what you're wanting to achieve. Next. And a really big part of design is typography. So fonts will have a language of their own. So not only will you be reading the words, but font has a language of itself. And it can be, if you're a serious news magazine or a playful blog or a vintage tea shop, the style of the words will complement what you're writing. They can also detract from what you're writing as well. So if you go to the next page, you'll see some examples of how different fonts can basically have very different tones, very different emotions. And it's worth having a think about what fonts you want to use when you're designing, because they can obviously be very formal, very playful, and they will have a mood to them, which you don't sometimes always think about. But when you see them like this, these are really, really, all really different, and they can all sort of strike different feelings when you're looking at them. So, yeah. So next one there. So next element, which you'll be using a lot of, is images. So images we see we see and process in seconds, whereas with the copy, it will take longer. And images can strike emotion, capture a mood really, really quickly. So by picking and by choosing appropriate images to complement your design, you can really use different photography and illustrations to your advantage. Next slide. So here we have some case studies. One question you can ask is, does this suit my audience? So we have two examples here of a community daycare. One is a very serious looking image. The fonts are very serious. The colors are very serious. Whereas on the right, we have bright, playful colours, playful image, playful fonts. Both have, even though they're the same words and they both have one child in them, the mood and the emotions that you see in both sides are quite different. And so you would need to think about, what's the content that I'm putting out there? What am I wanting the reader to engage with? Is this meeting what I am looking to create? So these images here, it's worth thinking about, because they will suit your design, or they might not suit from your design. They might actually detract from your design. So we have another case study afterwards. Is this design connected to the subject? So both of these images are beautiful, they're high res, but one is relevant and one isn't. So even though you might see images that you really like, they might have like a subject matter that you really think is interesting or funny. If it's not connected to what you're writing about, it can be a bit confusing, or it can actually be, it can sort of warp the message of what you're writing. So even though you may see something that you quite like, it's always important to make sure that your image that you're choosing is connected to the content. Next. And again, is your design working for you or against you? So here we have an advert that's been mocked up for a dentist. Now, yes, those tools, the dentist tools, there's nothing inaccurate about that, but it's not exactly appealing to perhaps someone who's looking to change dentists. It can maybe strike fear, or maybe feel someone feel very nervous. Whereas on the right, we have an image where we think, oh, someone would look at that and go, oh, wow, I love how white that person's teeth are. That looks great. That's something aspirational that I would go for. Whereas the image on the left might actually freak some people out. So by sort of thinking about what is your end, what are you aiming to do by creating this piece of content? In this case, you want to get patients to your dentist clinic. By using the image on the right, you're much more likely to get people to come through the door than on the left. Also, take note of colour. Oh, sorry, could we go back one more? Sorry. Taking note of colour. So blues and greens, we're often seen as like a clinical, medical colours. You'll often see those with dentists, hospitals, doctors. An orange colour can be sort of linked to maybe being an alarming colour, or even just a non-clinical colour. So I would be wary of colours I'm going to choose. And also with a font, choosing a font that looks professional, that would be associated with healthcare, rather than a playful font. That is something that I would be making that decision and choosing. So all these three elements, image, colour and font, these are all either can work with you for your design or against your design. So it's worth taking some time to consider those. Next, thanks, Saleha. So sourcing images. There is a risk finding images on Google and using them, because we don't know who's taken those photos, who owns them, if there's copyright attached to them. And quite often, these images can be quite low in resolution. And so I think it's wise to, if you have the budget, to try and get a subscription service like iStock or Shutterstock, where you can download an image, choose the resolution you need, whether it's you need an image for a really large poster or for just an email signature, you can choose a size. But you also don't have to stress about, where did this come from? Am I going to get in trouble down the track for using this? There are free image sites as well. If you can Google those, but there's some examples here, FreePic and Pixabay. And if you are, for example, promoting an event and it's in the Yarra Valley, Visit Victoria is a government stock image hub, where if you are hosting an event and it's at a location and it's sort of connected to tourism, you can find images for free as well. And also, if you use Canva, which I'm sure all of you are using Canva and love it as much as I do, you'll know that there's a lot of image options that you can download through there. And the last one here, and it's a bit of a segue to Saleha's next speaker, is AI. So artificial intelligence is coming into all of our design suite programs, into InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, Canva, and it's been a really, really helpful tool, especially if you're wanting to make small adjustments to images, creating copy for your layouts and flyers. It can remove backgrounds, remove things that you're not wanting to see in pictures. There are limitations. It can do some pretty crazy things to pictures, which I've seen, it's hard to sort of edit from there. But for example, if you're creating like an infographic and you want to have, for example, a little illustration that says, healthcare in rural Australia, ChatGPT and these AI tools will create very cute little illustrations that can sort of create a combination of the keywords you've put in there. As I said, sometimes it gets it wrong, but each time it gets cleverer and cleverer, I find. So it's a very helpful little tool. And I guess, all of you are doing design in some way, shape or form. So if you have any questions for me or anything like that, I'm more than happy to be helpful to you. But yeah.
You guys are using Canva, aren't you, Mariam, Shruti? So
Yeah,
ask
we
away
use it.
about Canva. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Amy. That was extremely helpful because I think that prior to joining Indian Care, I had never used or done anything graphic design related. And like just over the year of like working on things, seeing what works, what doesn't, and but also still like obviously there's so much to learn. And
Mm.
just through your presentation, I'm realizing just how much the things of like color, font, shape, all of these things have such a big impact when we design our flyers. So such like really good insights for us to to keep in mind. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I think the best way to, I guess, gain confidence in design is just to keep doing it. And
Yeah,
every time you do it, you will refine your craft. You'll see things that you like, and you'll also develop your own artistic style as well. And
yeah,
you'll find things that you get drawn to. So everyone has a different creative flair that they like, whether it's very modern looking design or very beautiful feminine looking design, or very striking. So you'll start to find that you'll have your own style that you'll start to gravitate to, which is with tools like Canva, it's a really exciting
yeah,
thing to do because it's so accessible and it's so user friendly.
absolutely.
Mm.
I do have one question, which is that sometimes we do find, yeah, like we never want to make our flyers too information heavy, but there
Mhm.
are like multiple things that we want to include.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is the best way to do that like a variation in size or fonts, or how do we like, or do you think that minimal information on the flyer and like put the rest in like an accompanying text? What would be better?
Yeah, so what we tend to do is we can have like sort of, I guess, the important part of the information, so the very, very essential part of it, and then link it to a website. So if someone sees something and they think, actually, I need to learn a bit more about that, you can have links throughout your document or a QR code. If
Yeah,
it's just an online document, you can embed your hyperlinks. So
yeah,
then what you can do is essentially just say you have 1,000 words, try and condense it to a quarter of that, and then utilize the tools of hyperlinks so that then your reader can take themselves off if they need to see it there.
yeah,
Because the thing is, if you have so much text, you're risking someone disengaging from it and going, "Oh, I don't have time to take
Yeah.
that in."
yeah,
So yeah, by cutting down your text and having some bright colors, shapes, little illustrations, you're going to keep that person there, which is
Okay.
really helpful. But it's a really tricky thing. And I mean, Saleha, we are always trying to find that balance of
Yeah.
trying to cut things down, but having but keeping as much on there as possible as well. It's a
Yeah.
really it's a very fine balance, isn't it, Saleha?
Yeah. And my pet hate is nowadays I see all these flyers, people are just they're putting the info and they're putting it on ChatGPT, and it comes up with, star with a star emoji with a, and it just, to me, it means people are being lazy. They're not putting any thought towards creating it. I know Amy and I don't do that. But I mean, and you know how I've been talking about everything should be on your website, because people will forget the flyer in 2 days, but you want people to go to your website. I know Jatinder has just started a podcast, and yeah, you want people to go to your YouTube channel to listen. With we keep talking about how property prices have gone up, how cost of living has gone up, and you're giving some great tips. But you don't want people to you want people to go to your YouTube channel and look at it. So for me, AI is good, but I just feel sometimes people are being lazy. And when I go and look at my writing, even a year ago, and I feel my writing was so much better last year, because now when you have the tools, and I'll be very honest, Amy and I do the magazine that I shared with you guys, Surgical News. So for the social media that I do for the magazine, I actually put 1,000 words into Copilot or ChatGPT, and I asked it to give me 50 words. And that's me being lazy. I never used to do it. But I'm like, I have the tools, I'll do it. And I won't say I take 100% of it, but I'll take the basic idea. And let me tell you, ChatGPT and Copilot are wrong in many times. I mean, sometimes they've changed the meaning totally. Sorry, I texted Amir, saying, can you hop in early? Obviously, he's not.
Sorry, I'm a fast talker.
Canva, Amy. Canva. I wanted to know how to put a link on Canva. You guys use Canva, don't you?
Mm-hmm. So you'll see there is options to put in links within Canva as well. And another thing as well, if with Canva, I don't know if you have set up a not-for-profit
I think it is.
Yeah. But you can have put in there all your branding templates. So, for example, you can plug in all your logos, program in all your corporate colors, your fonts. So if you've got a lot of people using Canva and you're worried about the wrong colors slipping in, people using sort of, I guess, things that are off-brand, you can lock that down within Canva, which is really, really helpful for an organization to get that consistent look and feel across all of your collateral that you're sending out.
So what you're saying is, with Canva, if I have an audio file, I can put in somebody's image, and I can also link it, put the link on the.
I think it would still need to go to some kind of website. I don't know if you could embed an audio file.
You know how much I don't know Canva well. I mean, sorry, I'm going to just put myself on mute before I start calling.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else have any sort of thing that they're finding with design, or any sort of questions about that?
Zainab, what do you use? Do you use Canva? I know you guys use Issue. They use Issue for their newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah. We use Canva also.
You use Canva.
Is anyone using Adobe products for design?
No? Actually, I used to use that one, but in India, yes. But in here, I haven't tried yet.
Yeah, Adobe is generally better for when you're doing sort of, I guess, long form documents. So if you're creating an annual report that's got lots and lots of pages, or a report that's got lots of data, I don't know if it would be a lot of fun doing that in Canva, especially if you have to style a lot of your words and have lots of like character and paragraph styles in there. But as I said, Canva's catching up all the time. So yeah, I think they'll be very comparable in a year's time.
Yeah. Your magazine, your newsletter, how many pages is that? I know we used to do Issue about 3 years ago, Amy. And then we just we now have a website, so we put everything there. How many pages is that, Zainab?
Yeah, actually, we are also trying to make it more shorter because people are
Yeah,
willing to read it. So it will be
yeah,
only like maximum 2 page, not more than that.
yeah, yeah. People have stopped reading. The attention span, yeah. And this is what I talked about, if you remember, a couple of workshops ago, that people are not reading at all. So the shorter, the better. Yeah, the shorter, the better. Yeah, I know. I keep telling Shruti, short newsletters, Shruti. People
Because
need to go to your website.
because they're
Yeah.
from the headline only, they will understand that okay, what's that one,
Yep.
and they are not really go too deep and get all the information and everything because they're really busy. And most of the time, as we already mentioned these things in the first session, now in the social media, in the like lot of platform like Instagram, TikTok, and these things, they can easily find these type of news and they can gain their knowledge. So that's why for this one, we just want to try to make it short as much as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Shorter, the better. I do, for my newsletter, I do 25 words. Oh, Amir is here. So thank you so much, Amir.
No
I
worries.
know
Hi,
I
everyone.
asked you to jump in 30 minutes early. Sorry, 10 minutes early. Amy finished early. This is Amy, our graphic designer guru.
Hi.
And
Nice to meet you, Amy.
Nice to meet you, Anya.
Amy has to go and pick up her children. Guys, this is Amir, CEO of Survey Monkey, best-selling author. He's got his own AI academy. And Amir, I will let you introduce yourself, and I think the ladies can introduce themselves to you too.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Guys, my name is Amir Kutub, and I'm the CEO of Enterprise Monkey, which is been traditionally like a software company, but for the last 4 years, we have been doing a lot in the AI space. This year, I also wrote a book which is called The CEO Who Mocked AI Until It Made Him Millions. We have sold around 15,000 copies of this, so it's been a bestseller on Amazon. Apart from that, I've recently founded an AI academy, which is we call as Dumb Monkey. So it's a mobile app as well as an online thing. And I've been really passionate about how AI is actually changing everything that we are doing, how AI is changing the world, but also looking at what are the implications of AI in terms of ethics, in terms of what's going to do to humanity, what's going to do to our jobs, and how does AI actually interact with humanity. Would you like me to get started, Saleha, or sorry, you're on mute actually.
Yeah, you on the mute. How are
I
you,
am
Amir?
on mute.
Hi, Jatinder. How are you?
Good, good.
Oh, we know each
You know,
other.
when I saw your name, I remember around I think 2 or 3 years ago, I sent you a message on a LinkedIn regarding there was some news regarding just to congratulate you
Oh,
for
thank you.
your work.
Thank you. No, that's really appreciated. And I think we are connected on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, we are connected on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You guys want to introduce yourselves, because Amit doesn't know anyone. He now knows Jatinder.
Yes.
But Mariam, you want to start because you are the first on my screen.
Okay, no, that's fine. Sure, thanks. I'm Mariam. I work with Indian Care as a community development officer.
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Mariam.
Hi, I'm Shruti. I'm also a community development officer at Indian Care.
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Shruti.
Hi everyone, I'm Shivya and I'm also a community development officer at Indian Care.
Nice to meet you, Shivya.
Hi, my name is Zainab, and I'm also a community support worker in Bakhtar Community Organization, Southeast.
Excellent. Nice to
Yeah,
meet you,
and
Zainab.
I'm Supriya, and I work with Saleha at the Multicultural Women's Alliance Against Family Violence.
Nice to meet you, Supriya. Very good.
Hello,
So,
everyone. My name is Jatinder. I just reintroduce you. So I work with the Brothers and Sisters Foundation and Saleha ji. So whenever she need me. Worked with a lot of other community organization, cricket club, soccer club, and my business is real estate. So
Mhm.
that's what I do.
Excellent.
Shruti,
Nice.
I want to tie up with Jatinder for your sporting event in the yeah. I did tell Mariam. So there
Okay.
you go. You made a connection just now.
Thank you.
Very
Okay.
nice. Excellent. All right. Look, I've got a bit of presentation, but I don't want to bore you. I'll take you through some of the stuff. But I would love to hear from you. Like, have you guys been, because it's a small group, so I love to have that interaction. Have you guys had any interaction with AI, or you have been using AI in your work so far? You have? Yeah.
I have. I don't know if
Mhm.
anyone else was going to speak, but I have. I
Yeah.
was just telling um, everyone here that up until last year, I realized my writing was so much better and smoother. And now with all the AI tools, I'm just becoming lazy. So I don't use AI when I'm writing my magazine or I'm writing
Mhm.
my book, but I do use AI when I want to do. It's mostly from my work. I did tell you I work with the College of Surgeons, so I have stories. Each feature, which is anything between 600 to 1,000 words, and I need to make a short 50-word social media post, and I'll just put everything on AI. I've been
Mhm.
told Copilot is better than ChatGPT, and I've started using that. It's made me lazy, but also I've realized that you can't trust any of them really, because sometimes they do give wrong information.
Absolutely. And that's one of the ethical dilemmas of using AI as well, because you can't really trust the information that it provides. One thing that I've found AI to be really useful in is being able to, so you can actually get AI to adopt different roles. For example, when I was writing my book, I created different reader personas and said, imagine you are a small business owner, imagine you are a business leader, imagine you work in community sector. Now read this chapter of my book and provide me your insights from your perspective, so from that customer's perspective. And then it provided me the feedback, and then on the basis of that feedback I could actually improve it and sort of like take it from there. So now there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. Now artificial intelligence has been there for a very long time. What has changed over the last 2 or 3 years is that we have got something which we call as generational AI or generative AI. So ChatGPT came up with a model where you could ask it a question, like send something to it and it could provide you the answer. And the way they did it was that actually trained their model on huge amount of knowledge that was there in the world. So all of the websites on internet, all of the books that were available, the videos, audios, all of that. And they did not even seek permission from the people that we are actually training the our model on your knowledge. Whatever it could find on internet, it just consumed that, and it actually created its own knowledge. And also what it has is it has got certain type of skills. It can take a piece of content and summarize it, it can analyze things and so on. So right now you can actually ask it any question and then it can provide you an answer from the knowledge that it has been trained on. And it is limited to the date till which it has been trained on. Now, the good thing for the consumers or users is that everyone has got access to that information and knowledge. But from the perspective of people who actually created that knowledge in the first hand, they feel like that their knowledge has been stolen by these large language models. But another argument around this is that because your knowledge was already available on the internet, so it is probably something that should be accessible for everyone to do that. So we cannot stop these large language models like OpenAI. Now you have got Claude, then there's Grok, there's like a lot of these models, or DeepSeek from China. We cannot really stop these models from being developed. They are out there, they are being developed and used by businesses. But we need to be conscious of how they are being utilized and then what effect does it have on our day-to-day lives, but also our day-to-day work as well. So you can right now, and there's been experimentations done, you can actually ask different models same type of question with specific political overview, and every model is going to provide a very different answer based on who has developed it. So for example, Grok, that has been developed by Elon Musk, would have and his team would have a different perspective than OpenAI. It would have a different perspective than DeepSeek, that has been developed in China. So the question, which sort of like, which is an ethical question, is which information do you trust and how much do you trust that information? I'll share my screen and quickly take you through some sort of like key points in my presentation. Uh, so that's why one thing that we need to be conscious of is like we develop an ethical framework so that we can ensure that this powerful thing that is going to have an effect on everything that we do, whether it's our jobs, the way we do work, the way we do anything, we would see that AI is going to be everywhere, and we need to be able to recognize and rule and govern AI. Otherwise, there's a potential of how AI can actually have influence in our lives without us having a control on it. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. Recently, a law firm in Australia, they were actually penalized because one of their attorneys actually used chat gpt to prepare the arguments, and it or made up the cases that were, and made up the precedences that were not there. But one of the thing with generational AI is it hallucinates and it always tries to please its master. So if you are using ChatGPT or any of these tools, then it has that natural intensity to actually ask question, like to provide answers even if they are not true, and make up the facts. So that lawyer actually used those made up facts and submitted into the court, and the whole law firm was actually penalized because of that. But there was a huge amount of reputational damage that happened. But imagine this type of information now being used by physicians or doctors to do a diagnosis, or lawmakers to make laws, where something that cannot be fully relied upon is being used to make really important decisions. So if I identify what are the six sort of key ethical challenges in generative AI, the first one is bias and discrimination. So all of these models that they have been trained are on a specific type of data. For example, a lot of models have been developed in US at the moment. So what you would see is, and there's been experiments done, a huge amount of experiments done, is there's definitely a natural bias in these AI towards specific nationalities, towards specific genders and things like that. So even if you ask it now, these are becoming better. But when we tested it with some initial models, if you ask it to create uh, like a photo of a plumber or an electrician or a CEO, in most of the cases, it would create an image of a male CEO or a male plumber. But if you ask it to create an image of, say, a secretary or a receptionist, then it would in most of the cases would create of a female secretary. So you're not even sort of prompting it whether it's a male or female, but because it has that inbuilt bias into it, it's actually amplifying that bias. Another case that I'm going to talk to you about around bias and discrimination is was identified that when AI was used to recruit people, it was actually showing its bias toward people from certain locations, certain areas, certain experience, and it was rejecting them because it has been trained already on a biased world and a biased data. So that's one of the big challenges with the AI is that it can, like earlier, that bias and discrimination was hidden, but AI, which has been trained on that biased data, can really amplify that. The second thing is that Right now there is a whole challenge around what's true and what's right and what's wrong with AI. Now I can use ChatGPT to create any type of image at all. I can ask it to create an image of a medical bill or a receipt or something like that. It looks 100% original. So that's a big challenge. Secondly, now AI can mimic someone's voice. So you can have like a voice clone of a person. Like there are tools out there like Hagen through which you can clone yourself. But there are exploits of those tools where you can actually make a clone of someone else. So first of all, the amount of scams that can happen, because right now if I use like ANZ Bank, they actually use voice recognition to approve my transactions. Now if AI can actually clone my voice, and your voice is accessible everywhere, your voice is in your meetings, like any meetings that are recorded, it's capturing your voice. If someone gets access to your voice, and getting access to your voice is simple, and makes a clone of your voice, and then they can use your voice to do those scams, but also call your family members and sort of in a distress mode and say I'm having this problem. And so we are seeing a lot of those scams and challenges that are already happening. But then there are deep fakes where you can take someone's photograph and create a video about them. There have been like issues even with around creating like revenge pawns and things like that that have been developed with the help of AI. And the challenge is, how do we actually stop those? The next big one is around copyright and authorship. So anything that you put on the internet domain at the moment can be scraped by AI. Like I can take any website and put an AI script. It can clone all of the content of the website, all of the IP of that website, even images of the website. And earlier, what used to happen is, if you had some sort of content, if someone is copy pasting it, then you could trace that and you could say, oh, this is my content. But what if someone takes the actual key idea of your intellectual property and tweak it a bit, and just change it a little bit, and then claim it as their own? And that's what these large language models are currently doing. So what happens to the copyright and what's happened to the authorship remains a big question. The next one is around privacy and surveillance. So whenever you use free version of ChatGPT, it's written in their privacy policies that they can use your data to train their model. What it means is that if you are having any conversation with ChatGPT, sharing any information, for example, I was we were talking about this example. If people use ChatGPT to create like do family planning, no, sorry, family trips planning. So saying we want to go to this place, give me an itinerary or something like that. Now ChatGPT does that job really well, but now ChatGPT knows that you are actually going here and here and here. So before AI, the amount of personal information or data that we were sharing with internet was limited to mostly social media or emails. Emails were really formal, but it was social media, and we were conscious because we knew that's going to be out in the domain. But after AI, the amount of personal data that we are sharing with it is huge. People are using it for therapy, counseling, and so on. Now, if that personal data can be used to train the models, that's a huge challenge in itself. But also, if that personal data gets leaked in some way or utilized in a different way, then that's a big challenge. So you see these large behemoths of organizations that are developing these large language models and almost controlling our lives because they have got access to all of the information. And then similar to that is surveillance. So like now all of the cameras can be accessed with the help of AI. You don't even need the cameras to be inside the walls now. With the help of Wi-Fi signals and advanced artificial intelligence, you can actually track what's happening inside a house without like a physical camera, just with the Wi-Fi signal. So if I hack into your Wi-Fi signal or Bluetooth signal, I can exactly know how many people are there in a particular room, what are the movements and things like that. So you already, everyone is carrying these phones, and these phones already capture a lot of information about you, and this can be further amplified with the help of AI. Now I'm not telling these things to like scare you or sort of like spread fear, because we do a lot of stuff with AI. All I'm saying is that you need to be conscious and aware of what AI is doing to this world, and with everything that we are doing, we need to ensure that we are working towards a world which is actually safe in this AI age. You can't really stop AI from happening. This is like a wave, like, if you are in the water, the wave is coming. You can't really run away because it's very fast. You can't fight against it. The only thing that you can do is you can learn uh, how to actually swim across the wave, or how to surf and ride the wave. So this is the world where we are living, where we need to almost use and embrace AI to understand what are the challenges, and then shape AI in such a way that it doesn't become a threat to the humanity. One of the experiments that was done very recently on ChatGPT from one organization was that uh, like some researchers actually started asking some questions about suicide and things like that. Initially it did not respond, but when then they actually tweaked the questions a bit, and then asked it about self harm and things like that. So chat gpt actually started suggesting ideas about how it how you can actually inflict self harm on yourself. But that has been shown true in terms of like how you can inflict harm on others as well. So chat gpt, and even if you can secure chat gpt, there's so many these models that are coming out. They have the potential to actually encourage violence, but give people more way and validation to doing violence as well. So where I know most of you guys are actually fighting against some of those things, how do we prevent this thing that would be in hands of every common person to actually promote violence more actively? Finally, the key thing is also accountability and transparency. So the challenge with accountability transparency is, right now you ask a question to AI, it gives you an answer but doesn't gives you the source. So it doesn't tell you why it's right, why it's wrong, how confident it is. It's just giving you an answer that is there to please you. So there's no accountability. And if you try to sue OpenAI for a wrong answer that would cause millions of loss, they would say, we already had a disclaimer, we are not accountable, it's AI, it's something like that. And there's no transparency. If someone wants to claim today that my data was used by chat gpt or claude or whatever, it's very difficult to do that. Like, no company has been able to sue them successfully and get anything out of it. And finally, the biggest challenge that we all are facing is what it's going to do to our jobs and work. Now, you might think that I'm just conscious of time, but you might think that this is at a premature stage. But what we are seeing is, in next 2 years, going to have a significant impact on the jobs. I am aware of the people who have reached out to me on LinkedIn who have lost jobs because their companies embraced AI. And it is mainly the knowledge workers. So it started with the coders and the translators and the writers. Even large companies like Canva have fired sort of content writers, and we are going to start to see that more and more. And even if companies don't fire people, what you would see is they will stop hiring or reduce their hiring rates significantly. What it means is that we need to work out how do we reinvent our skills and our education so that we become relevant in the next day and age. Now, these are some of the examples. We are conscious of time, so I'll just quickly run through these. Amazon's recruitment tool. This is a case study about how an AI system trained on hiring from the historical data it showed a strong bias against women, forcing, and it was not selecting the women, it was only selecting the men, so Amazon had to shut it down. The next one was, there was a government algorithm developed by Dutch government that actually penalized ethnic minorities, leading to massive political fallout and government resignation. And you can sort of like have a look at that case study itself. uh, this one is an interesting one. One company developed soap dispenser, and it had like a sensor which would recognize the person, and it failed to recognize darker skin tones because it was trained on recognizing fairer skin tones. And just like a very simple example, but a very important one. Deepfakes, we already talked about how big a problem that deepfake is. Copyrights, we also talked about the copyrights rights and some of the active litigation that are actually happening at the moment. uh, Data privacy, security, and surveillance is definitely a big one. Job displacement at future. So this is a stat from Goldman Sachs: 25% jobs are at risk, 300 million global impact, and 85% of people would need upskilling. So it's going to be a huge challenge over the coming years. And then finally, the accountability, transparency, and regulation. So without going into detail, I'm happy to share this presentation with you. The Ultimately, rather than being scared about what's happening, the more we try and understand how AI works, how we can embrace AI, the better we would be in the position to determine how we can use AI and shape AI in a much better way. Open to any questions or final thoughts if you guys have.
Wow. Wow. That's it's actually very scary world out there.
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
scary. And I always try to get my head around deep fakes, and I can never differentiate because, even a fake looks real to me. But yeah,
And it's just the inception. Like, it's going to get better and better in next
yeah,
1 or 2 years.
You
yeah,
mean worse and worse?
yeah.
Yes, the technology will become better, and then the implications could be worse and worse.
Wow. Guys, anyone has any
But
questions?
but
Sorry, no, Supriya.
you know, that's at the ethical regulation side, yeah. But in terms of media, I think if I can use it to help me, say, put more images and more graphic design into my presentation, and I'm in control of it, that it doesn't change the meaning of the presentation, then I should be able to use it.
100%,
Yes.
absolutely. And the problem with it is, if you don't use it, the first people who would be targeted with AI are the people who don't use it, because then
Yeah,
you are on risk of being irrelevant because everyone will start to use it. So the solution is to be heads on and actually start to use it so that you understand what it can and what it can't do as well.
But maybe we could create our own agents. I believe now there are programs in AI where you can create your own very limited agents. And I wonder if I wouldn't mind being able to create my media agent to spice up, because I'm not a visual person, but as
Mhm.
Amy before was saying, you need to be visual in order to have great impact in your media, particularly, where words are going to be at a minimum, then you need images. And but then you have to see whether AI has given you an image that is got copyright associated with it. Yeah.
Yes, so mostly the AI generated images are free of copyright because it's generated by like completely new. Like, AI can generate images from the scratch. So that's something that you can easily work with. What we have got is, on our website and app dumbmonkey.ai, we've got a free course that you can do, which actually tells you how can you create your own agents in there as well.
Okay.
and I think that would be a really useful course for you to do
If
it.
you can send that to me and copy everybody, I
Sure,
copied you on that email. So
sure.
yes, that will be great. And maybe, Supriya, we should get Amit to come and talk in one of our events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, you have to keep on checking because I
Yeah.
use AI as a search tool, a Copilot as a search tool, and but then I go and check it because
Yeah, but
Copilot
not
does give you
everybody
the
does so.
sources. No, what I'm
Mm,
Yeah.
saying is, if you're aware of the issues with AI and you don't want reputational damage like that lawyer,
yeah.
I believe in law, you can only expect 30% accuracy with AI. That's
Mm.
what that was some of the figures. So it's pretty awful. So you have to protect yourself. Yeah.
100%. And there are ways to do that even with these models as well. Like you can prompt it in such a way so that it
Mm.
doesn't give you makeup things. You can ask for its sources and then you can check the sources as
Yeah.
well.
And I know sometimes ChatGPT does give sources. I know
Mm.
Claude does, because somebody told me about Claude, and it gives all kinds of sources, but
Hmm.
it's very dry. I don't like Claude. So I'm not saying I don't use AI. I do. I've been told, as I said, to use to use Copilot because it's contained. But yeah, I try not to use. I just feel, but this is a good one. And if you can share the Anji,
Sorry.
sorry,
Yeah. No, so I've shared the link over here, but I'll
yep,
share the link over the
yes, please,
email as well.
and your presentations, and I can share it with the group.
Sure, happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Lovely to catch up with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and
And
we will
please
be in
Amir,
touch.
connect with me.
I send you a message again. So when you get a chance,
Sure,
let's
let's
connect.
connect. Absolutely. And please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, everyone. Happy to
Yeah,
have a
I
chat.
think I'm the only one connected with Supriya. You should connect with Amit. We want, yeah. AI
Sure.
is a good thing to talk about at our events. Sorry.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All
I
right.
think it's been 5 minutes over. Okay, bye. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.